By the grace of God, I was lucky. I was like, I just couldn't pick Instagram. I couldn't pick Facebook. I couldn't justify that to my boss. I was like, LinkedIn it is. And we just did it. And it just happened to have the best reach possible.
Welcome to Rep Matters, a podcast for sales professionals who are eager to build their business acumen and become top performers. In each episode, your hosts, Zoya Zagelbacher and Caroline Jones, explore the real-life experiences, obstacles, and triumphs of salespeople. With an emphasis on authenticity and storytelling, listeners gain valuable insights into the strategies, mindsets, and skills that drive success in sales. Let's get started.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Rep Matters. This episode is brought to you by Marketers in Demand. Marketers in Demand has in-depth videos, podcasts, and articles from some of B2B's most in-demand marketers. Today, our guest is Jarrett Thomas. As an innovative thinker, Jarrett committed to building authentic relationships and creating an enjoyable sales experience. This commitment led him to establish a strong personal brand on LinkedIn. Through his efforts, he's developed connections with industry leaders, growing his following from 2,000 to 18,000 followers in just 2 years by consistently creating authentic and valuable content. Implementing this strategy on LinkedIn has resulted in over 5 million impressions and the successful closure of over $2 million in deals, accomplished without resorting to a single cold call or email. He has been recognized as a LinkedIn Black voice, contributing to amplifying voices within the platform. In addition to his professional pursuits, Jarrett is the creator and co-host of the More Than a Title podcast. It's so good. Go listen to that after this. And he's an advocate of the More Than a Title mantra, which we'll talk a bit more about in a little while. Beyond being a dedicated professional, he's a father, son, brother, musician, and social media strategist. Jarrett, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for the intro. Like I'm ready to go. Every time you hear it, it's like, I did all of that shit.
Yes.
That's really cool.
Yes.
I did that.
Hell yeah. Well, we're so excited to have you here today. I know you and I have been doing catch-ups periodically. It's always a good time. And I'm just so excited to get it captured here on the pod today. So I'll kick things off kind of with an origin story. I was on your LinkedIn and I saw that you tell your sales origin story. It starts with a Wolf of Wall Street style, sell me this pen. And then it ends with you getting your revenge by getting your paper. That's my summary of it. Can you fill in the gaps and just walk us through that origin story?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was about to have my first child. So my oldest, the one who just got the door, is about to be 16. So that's when I was long ago, I was about to do sales. So I ended up getting an opportunity. I was a waiter at BBQs. I was at La Pan Quotidian. I was at Starbucks, about to have my first child. I'm like, something's got to give, right? I got to be able to sustain this family. This tip stuff ain't working, right? So what did I do? I went on Indeed every night, put in about 5 to 10 applications to every job. I don't care if it was hospital worker, care staff, police, firefighter. I don't care what it was. I just wanted something, right? And then I just get an email from a guy. He's like, hey, come into this for a hospital call center job, right? So I'm going in, think I'm going to be like one of the call center guys. And the person overheard me talking. He's like, hey, I think you'd be good for sales. Have you ever considered it? I'm like, how much they pay? He said, $40,000 a year. I said, I'll sell you right now. And then he literally asked me to sell him a pen. Like the movie had just came out. So I'm like, hold up, I just saw that movie. So I knew the answer. You know what I mean? Like, create the demand. And the next thing you know, I'm doing an interview at his office in Midtown Manhattan. I have to do a video, like a conference or a video interview. I had to sell myself, pitch myself. And then I ended up going in person and getting my first sales job as an advertising display, doing display advertising. So I was in a boiler room with about 300 people. If you didn't hit your number by Friday, you were gone by Monday. And it was so crazy. And I ended up being a top performer there for 8 straight quarters, did $250,000 a quarter consistently. And then from rest, it was sales from there. I fell in love with the grind.
Yes. I love that. And I remember when I read it, you said people came from all kinds of backgrounds. Some of them were really proud of where they came from. You were also really proud of where you came from. Can you tell us a little bit about what the intro scene kind of looked like?
Absolutely. So we're walking around. So the first day I get there, and shout out to my boy Tommy McMaster. If you hear this, I'm shouting you out, brother. So we're always like maybe 10 of us in a formal training session or whatever. We're going around the room. What's your name? Where you're from? What school you went to? And I just happened to be the last one. I don't know why. It was just like, fuck, I'm the last one. So they go around. Everybody's like, I'm from Buffalo State. I'm from Jackson State. I'm from this one. I'm from Yale, Cornell. I'm like, man, I'm just Jarrett. I'm Jarrett Thomas from the Bronx. I'm gonna be a top seller here. And they literally just laughed me out there. Everybody just looked at me like, what would make him say that? You know what I mean? And by the grace of God, I was the top seller within the first 3 months. It was just, I had no choice. It was either this was going to work or I had to go back to being a waiter. And there's no way in heck I was going back to being a waiter when my son about to be born. So I just had that determination. I was like, I wasn't going to let nothing stop me. And whatever it is, I'm going to figure it out. And we did. And I was just killing it. And next thing you know, I'm training them same people. They're like, how are you doing it, Jarrett? How are you making $200 a day? Because I have a purpose. I'm not just here for a job. I'm here for the money. I want to be the best I can be. If I'm gonna spend 8 hours a day away from my family, I want to be the best. And that was it. And here we are. I can't say it wasn't hard. It wasn't difficult. It was boiler room. It was a lot of days that didn't. I definitely dealt with some things professionally there. I had to cut my hair to get raises. I had to do a lot of things in order to promote to progress my career. But it made me the person I am today, right? Like I had to be a leader. I had to had 3 different CEOs in the span of 6 months. It was just crazy. And then I ended up leaving there and going to be one of the first Black employees at Con. So that was
what was
really
that
cool
step like?
I mean, you want to be honest with you? I thought it was the film festival. I was like, what, the film festival? I'm like, yeah, all right, from ass to the film festival. Yeah, I love movies and stuff like that. And then when I actually found out it was for the advertising one and what they actually did, I'm like, oh no, I got to do this. So I was selling their archive. So I was talking to like the big agencies, the VPs, CCOs, and they were basically buying all the works that used to be submitted into the Cannes Festival so they could put a new submission in. So it was a really cool sale. I traveled all over the world. I was 25 with a company card. I loved it. It was mad cool. And I appreciate the experience. I'm grateful for all those people to give me that shot.
How do you think sales has changed? Like, there are, of course, still call center sales roles, but where are we now compared to when you got your start in sales?
I think it hasn't changed much. I think only thing that's changed is the way that we do outreach, right? How the way we connect with our customers. That's changed vastly with the technology mediums, but it's still the same thing, right? When I was in sales back when I first boiler room, you know who got the sales? The person with the most relationships, the person who had the black book. You remember back in the day, they used to ask you, who is in your black book? Who can you call? And I never got it. I'm like, I'll sell anybody. But it really is relationships, who you know, what you know, and what kind of value you can provide to that person. So it's the same thing. It's just now, how are you leveraging social media to get that message across, right? Because if I'm one salesperson, my biggest thing, and that's why I started the LinkedIn for everybody listening, I was tired of doing cold calls. I was doing 1,000 cold calls, maybe a week. You're doing like maybe 150 a day, 200 a day. You're sending 50 emails. And then out there, all that activity, I got 3 meetings. And out of those 3 meetings, one person is going to reschedule, one is going to no-show, and one may sit there for half an hour and listen to your pitch, if you're lucky. And I'm like, this is no way for me to hit my number, right? But what it is happens is when I get you on the phone and we have that conversation, we actually start to like each other. So if I can get you on the phone, if I can get 12 people on the phone in a week, then I know my close rate is going to be up there because I'm going to build that relationship. And I was like, how can I scale me? And it was LinkedIn. By the grace of God, I was lucky. I was like, I just couldn't pick Instagram. I couldn't pick Facebook. I couldn't justify that to my boss. I was like, LinkedIn it is. And we just did it. And it just happened to have the best reach possible. And we made it happen.
It's interesting because it's such a data-driven approach. But I've heard you use the phrase on your show, impact over data.
Yes.
Can you tell us what that means to you as a professional?
So for me, like I use that on the show a lot. So impact over metrics is what we use because at the end of the day, the metrics aren't going to tell the full story. It's similar to like, you could read my bio. It's not going to tell you the full story of who I am as a person. So if I go outside right now, I know people who live in the Bronx right now that are on my neighborhood that have never left the neighborhood. But I can go to the store right now to go get some eggs or something. They'll be like, Jarrett, I love your podcast. I saw you with the founder of Fubu. How do I start my podcast? How do I travel and things like that? So if I'm shifting your mindset, how do I put an ROI on that if I can change this person's life? So it's like, it depends on what are we using the data for, right? Are we using it to sell a sponsorship? If we're selling sponsorships, then it's very important. But if I'm just trying to create impact and really just, help people get their stories across, then I'm doing a great job.
Yeah. I love that. As someone who's also balancing, right, my mission-driven impact as well as other impact, right? I love that you share that.
So, but I'm curious, but do you not feel the same with you can't put if I get 1,000 views on, we get 1,000 views on this episode, doesn't mean it wasn't impactful, right? There could be one person that says, I love this conversation and change the way I do sales, and it may go close the biggest deal they ever closed 2 weeks from now. And
Absolutely.
they'll email you when they get the commissions, or you.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I love it. I'll give an example. So I'm out here dipping my toe in fluencing, and I spoke to someone recently, and they were reviewing my metrics. Like we were just like live on the phone, and they were like looking at my metrics, and some of them are really good. And then I post a lot. Like I will always, I mean, maybe don't quote me on this, maybe I won't, but I can't see why I wouldn't always post like if we have an uncapped like speed networking event, or if we have an uncapped like local event, I will always post those. But you know, if someone's not in the area, they're probably not going to engage with the content that much. But it's just like, of course I'm going to put, like, it's an event that we're having for Uncapped. Like there are people who I want to be aware of it. And sure, maybe it's not going to have the kind of, you know, metrics that someone who's looking for a sponsor to have, or, you know, someone who's looking to sponsor content. But I don't know, like, am I not going to post it? No, I'm going to post it and it's going to bring my average down. I don't care.
Yeah. But even if, what if you have, it doesn't matter about the actual metrics. So what if you have 1,000 followers, right? But you can't go to your live right now and say, hey, I need you guys to do X, Y, Z. But if I got 2 followers and I know those 2 people can buy a shirt from me or do whatever, or buy my course, what's more valuable? And I think we just look at it from a skewed perspective, right? So it all depends who's watching it, who's viewing the data, stuff like that. So we got to keep that in mind.
Totally.
And time, right? It depends on how much wiggle room you have on your timeline for the goal you're looking to achieve. Yeah. Jarrett, can you talk about a time that patience has really paid off for you personally or professionally?
Oh, patience. Tell me about it. It always pays off. So I'll tell you the first story. So when I first started on LinkedIn, right? So I was at a place called iPullRank. It's an SEO agency, right? So the founder, shout out to Mike King, he was an influencer. So he was a big influencer and SEO specialist, one of the top SEOs in the world, right? So I had a candid conversation with him. I'm like, hey, how are you generating leads? Like, if I'm going to send cold emails to Nike, like nobody knows this, it's not going to work, right? So how can I really effectively penetrate the markets and verticals you want? And he's like, man, we get it from my newsletter. We get it from, I do content on Twitter. I got 50,000 followers on Twitter. Boom, light bulb went off. So when that light bulb went off, I said, I'm going to go to LinkedIn every single day and I'm going to put up content. So when patience took in, I had to sit there and tell my direct supervisor that, hey, I'm waiting on leads to come in from LinkedIn when he wants me to make 100 dials. And I had to stand on my position. That was the hardest gamble I could have made ever. And it was like, look, I'm telling you, you don't see it. But when I go outside to go get lunch, like a chicken parm, people are asking to take my picture. So imagine what their boss thinks. What if their boss seen us? Right? Like, it doesn't mean they're not going to reach out. It's going to happen. Just give me some time. Give me some time. And then they started to see some traction. And 3 months in, we actually closed our biggest deal for over $400,000. And just so happened, it was 3 weeks before the pandemic hit.
Wow.
3 weeks. So now, had we not had that deal, I don't know if we would have been able to survive or been in the same. We wouldn't have been the same team. Let's just say that, right? It would have impacted the company greatly. So we were able to close that deal. And then we started the podcast Rankable. And then, like I said, it took about 6 months before I started to get consistent outreach from people like CMOs, VPs of marketing. Like, hey, Jarrett, I love your content. Like, people who never even liked the post would just come into my DM and be like, hey, I love your stuff. And you know what? I have a $60K budget. I want to do SEO and content. Could you help me with this? Hell yeah, I can help you. What did you like? And I'm doing a call the next day. And then they get on the phone. They're so excited to see you and meet you because they've seen your stuff all day. And you don't even have to sell. You're really just figuring out a solution. I'm not trying to sell you. I'm actually solving. And that's the best part of sales, is solving, not selling.
So
I feel
like
that on a t-shirt.
Yeah. Like, that was good. I never said that, right?
Trademark. Where's the air horn for that one?
Right.
We need the more than a title.
So you kind of covered it, but I want to know if there's anything more here. You mentioned you were making wild number of dials. You had this moment where you thought to yourself, there's got to be something more. You spoke to someone who had the like Twitter like success story, and maybe this is it, but like, can you describe the moment that like you just had that spark with LinkedIn? Like you got that tip, you started thinking about it. Like, when did you know it was going to work? Or like, when did you like commit to it, go beyond just like an idea to I'm going to stand up to my boss and say, like, look, be patient with me?
Yeah, when I saw the analytics. So when I saw my first post do like 20, 30,000 views, I said, I'm not doing that on Instagram, Facebook, and I'm actually trying over there. Right? Like, I'm actually trying to go viral over there, and nothing's happening. Why is that? And then shortly after that, what I started to recognize is there wasn't many people that looked like me, right? There wasn't anybody that knew sales marketing. There wasn't anybody from the Bronx. There wasn't nobody telling their actual story. It was, hey, come here to this webinar. Or I see the same people posting. I'm like, I got like 2,000 followers. Why do I see the same 8 to 10 faces? Right. And then, as you guys know, you start realizing, whoa, not so many people are on the network because, one, they're too afraid of, my boss is looking. What are my coworkers going to think? What will other people think of me? You have that imposter syndrome. There's so many different variables. And then once I saw that, I saw the stat that only 2% of people post. I said, oh no, what's the odds of going to be somebody like me from the Bronx with a hat and a hoodie, sitting on the couch, Indian style, talking about content marketing? Probably 0.1. So let me just give it a shot, right? And it just started working. And once I seen the numbers, I'm like, this has to be, what else other thing could it be besides content deficiency? So I just doubled down on that. And once I started to show them the numbers, I'm like, look, this got 50,000 in a month. This got 100,000 a month. You see my followers and my growers going up. You see my DMs, right? So you're seeing activity, but it's just, how do we connect that dots into sales activity, which I had to figure out really quickly. And then, like I said, luckily I was on the feed and top of mind. Somebody saw me, reached out, and then we ended up starting the sales process. And they had the exact need that we could solve. It was just like, it was a godsend. I couldn't ask for a better deal. I still haven't closed a bigger deal to this day. That was one of the biggest deals of my career, and it happened in maybe 3 to 4 weeks. Simple, just whoop, whoop. It was such an easy process, like 4 or 5 phone calls. Everything was easy to give you the information you want. The contract was good. It was very little red lines. That never happens. You know that as well. Like, it never happens.
Yeah.
It was just so smooth. So I was like, oh man, if this is like this, I wish I'd have did this shit 10 years ago.
Yeah. And probably because you built that credibility. Like, when you do start showing up regularly and creating content that helps people and informs people, there's that trust. And then, when you talk one-to-one, it's just like they've seen it. You've shown a lot of it. They probably even like adopted some of the things you've said already. You've already been solving, right, by the time you go in to make the deal.
Absolutely. But if you look at some of our best salespeople or some of our best social media personalities, specifically on LinkedIn, who are they? The Gary V's, the Grant Cardones. You have with Justin Welsh, all those type of people, right? Now, if you met them right now in a conference, are you not getting giddy a little bit?
Yeah.
Like, holy, it's you. And what do you, oh man, I see your stuff all the time. And Jarrett, oh, well, there's so much stuff I want to say. I don't know what to say. And it's like, when you got them like that, you have the leverage as a salesperson, because I get to decide if I want to do something with you or not.
Totally.
And it's that leverage that makes you higher in the sales path. So now if you come to me versus me doing the outreach, you've already made up in your mind 50% that I want to work with this person. It's like similar to a young lady asked me on a date. It's like, you already, all right, that's pretty cool. Like, you must really like me. You know what I'm saying? And it's the same thing. So how do you apply that in sales, and how do you scale that? You just got to keep putting yourself out there, So when I was doing everything I learned on LinkedIn, I was giving it right back. Oh, hey guys, look at this. Oh man, I did this post and I changed the title to this type of hook, and this is what it did, guys. Oh man, I just put up a new carousel that's performed 3 times better than this. Did you guys see that? And that's what was happening. And then just built the following from there.
Yeah. What's a misconception people have about posting on LinkedIn or using LinkedIn the way that you have and gotten expertise in this area?
I think the biggest one is don't be authentic. Don't be yourself, or that you have to be a specific way. So like when you hear a lot of the gurus on LinkedIn, it's like, you have to be a specific way. You have to have a hook. It's got to be a body, and there's got to be a mean killer close to action, and there's got to be this and that. Like, it literally doesn't have to be like that sometimes, right? Because generally what I want to do, I just want to create the relationship. If I create the relationship, I can't put an ROI on that. Like, one of my mentors is the CEO of 16 Handles, or the former CEO of 16 Handles, right? Like, he has 48 locations, and we have 1 hour once a month, every month for the past 3-4 years.
Wow.
What kind of ROI can you put on that, right? Because I wasn't looking for a deal. I wasn't looking for anything. He said, Jarrett, what do you want out of this relationship? I said, 5 years from now, I want you to be at my wedding or something. I want us to be sipping pina coladas. I want the kids to be playing together. What does that look like? Because I don't know what this mentor stuff looks like. And just being that authentic, that's what's been able for me to get all the guests on the podcast. Because I'm just organic. I don't want anything. I don't ask anybody for anything. I'm just in my bubble. And if I can help you, I can help you. If I can, I can. And that's what I live by.
I love that.
Has it ever been challenging to separate your personal life from your professional life? Do you even want to keep them separate where you're at right now?
No, once the pandemic happened, what was separate?
Yeah.
So that's when I started. I'm like, what is separate? Right? I'm sitting there on the same couch. I'm doing content, the same couch. I'm doing sales calls, the same doing the team calls. Like, so what is really different? I just turned the computer off. So if I'm going to be here and be in front of the screen, I want you to know who I am. I got to be at least interesting because once again, I have to separate myself from everybody else that you're on the screen with.
Yeah.
So
yeah. I love that you say that. I'll get a little bit vulnerable on here too. Like,
do it.
One of our first conversations that we had was even around that, right? Like, I've grown a lot in the last year. Thank you. And I remember like feeling really inspired by you because I definitely am always myself, right? Like, to some degree, like if you're an authentic person, right, you can't help but bring yourself to the environments that you go to. But that doesn't mean you don't have a self-consciousness about it, or it doesn't mean that you don't like worry, how's this going to come across, And I remember we were talking and I was talking about my balance. Like, I was just saying, like, these are the things I want to do. I'm becoming more vocal on LinkedIn. It scares me because I have a brand that's very professional. And I also have a personality that's also professional, right? I think that's where I got to by the end of our conversation. Yeah. Like, I was like, I have a brand. It's very professional. It's very buttoned up. And for people who know me at work, like, they know like all of my facets, right? But I was like, if I'm going to put something in writing, like, how do I make sure that somebody interprets that the right way, And I just remember like walking away from that conversation. I think that was like one of the conclusions that I had. We talked it through and I was basically like, well, I know I'm professional. And you're like, well, then great. Then like be yourself. Like
that's it. Have fun. Don't be stupid.
Yeah.
That's it. Have fun. Like I don't know if I told you that on that story on the same conversation we had, but I remember one time I put up a medium rare steak. I was at a steakhouse or something like that where I was working at the agency. It got maybe 30 likes on LinkedIn. I don't know why I put it up like, oh man, this looks so yummy. The CEO of Stars Entertainment liked that post. The CEO of Stars Entertainment, I DM'd him and asked him for a role in Power. I kid you not, I still got the DM. Like, he didn't respond to me, but you couldn't get the CEO of Stars Entertainment to like a post if you tried.
Right.
Yeah.
So what it was, he could have been at a steakhouse at that same time. And guess what? We just bonded because he was at a steakhouse. He saw my medium rare. We both eat medium rares, and now we have a connection. Now, what do you do with that connection is the $1 million question. So it doesn't matter how you get that connection, just get it. And if you're going to be yourself, I'm pretty sure, Zoe, since then, how many young ladies or even just people in general just come to you and be like, oh man, I was thinking that. Oh my God, I love your stuff. Oh my, I want to try. How do you get the courage?
Right? And it's really cool. It's really cool.
And it's so simple. It's just being yourself. It's literally LinkedIn. Like, it's so many other stuff going on that's way more important than LinkedIn. I ain't gonna lie. I'm gonna be very transparent. The numbers used to get to me. I was obsessed with the numbers. That's why I'm impact over metrics now. I was obsessed with it. Oh, I don't have 100,000. Why am I not on top post? Oh, why am I not a LinkedIn top voice? Why am I not this? And it's like, it doesn't matter because I'm still doing my thing. None of that matters. I don't need to be vindicated or validated by anybody because I know the relationships that I have. So if I'm being me and I'm talking to the people that I'm talking to, I'm doing okay. Yep. I damn sure wasn't talking to them before.
Yeah.
They didn't hear me then.
Yeah, I think that's important. I wanted to ask you, like, what advice you have for salespeople in particular for using LinkedIn. I'm hearing be yourself and the numbers will take care of themselves. Is there any other advice you give, especially to the Black community, as we do have a representation on LinkedIn for sure?
Absolutely. I would say tell your story. One thing is be authentic, but we can't get change to happen if we're not telling what's happening. So for instance, I told a story. One of my best performing posts was me telling the story about, I just told you guys about me cutting my hair. That was one of the, that's something about how many professionals go through that same thing every single day. Should I go to corporate? Should I conform? Should I not? Should I be myself? But I have bills. I have kids. What do I do? And they struggle with that, right? But at least tell your story. Tell what happened to you. And if you don't tell your story, who is going to tell it to you? Nobody's waking up for you, going on that train, going into that office, smiling in front of those people, closing those deals, doing all that. you just give it back. Don't hoard the information. So anybody listening, do not hoard your information, because anything that you have is valuable. If you're a first-time salesperson, you learned something today that somebody didn't know that's about to start tomorrow. Why can't you tell them?
Yeah. That's so powerful, because even I feel like you get to a point, like everyone on this call is very experienced in sales.
Absolutely.
Any one of us could post every day and probably post something that helps somebody who's getting into sales. And again, even if I think back to just a year ago, I was like, oh, like, what if I'm criticized? Like what? And it's just so funny because yeah, it's like, I don't know. For me, and I think for a lot of people need to hear this. If you learn something that you didn't know previously, there's probably so many other people who didn't know it, and you'll be helping them. I'm going to shout out Ty Smith, who we've had on the podcast before, but he said something really funny, and he's like, it's selfish if you don't share, is what he was saying. He's like, think about all the people who need XYZ, like we were just talking about, like business ideas in general. And he was like, think about all the people who need insert this business thing. He's like, it's selfish if you don't do it. We were all like going around and sharing our business ideas. So I love that.
Love that. Don't hoard the information. Let it out.
Don't hoard
so
it.
It's something, it depends on, and also depends on who your target audience is, right? So if you're doing it strictly for sales, if you're in SEO, it's good to give out maybe 2 or 3 posts a week about SEO tips, something around related to what your business does. But think about doing it in a creative way. The problem is it's so stuffy. There's thousands of posts, thousands and hundreds of thousands of posts about the same topic. What are you going to do to stand out? And I just think there's a lack of creativity. A lot of people don't insert creativity on LinkedIn. They're just like, I have to do it this way because this is what works. Be you. Do it in your way. I know you've seen people. I know a guy, I can't think of his name off the top of my head, but he's a sales rapper. You've heard of him, right? I can't think of his name. I'm sorry for not forgetting your name, bro. And I don't want to say a name because I don't want to mess it up. But he's the sales rapper. And his whole thing is he creates sales, like he does sales and pitches and all that and rap. And I think that's so creative.
Yeah. Is he in New York?
Yeah, I think he is. He's an Asian dude. I can't think of his name. He's a cool dude too. I can't remember his name.
Is it Brian? Is that his first name?
I got to find it. Sorry, y'all. On the comments, when we put the clips out, I'm going to put it in the comments. Yeah. Sorry, y'all. But he's cool as heck. It was creative. So find him. Put sales rapper on LinkedIn.
Yeah. I was actually curious. You mentioned like posting about SEO. If you work in SEO, you've been in the same industry for years, Jarrett. So how important do you think industry expertise is for sales success?
I think it is important, but see, the thing with me that was unique about my experience is that I bounced around. So I've sold every single facet of digital marketing. So I would stay at one place. So the first place I went, I was there for 3 years. I went to Cannes for 1.5 years. I learned the whole entire the advertising agency, right? Why does creative work? What works? What doesn't work, right? Then from there, I went to an agency for a year. I was a VP of sales. So now I'm running the agency, doing the creative, the same stuff that I learned from Cannes. From there, I went to interactive content. I went to SEO services, SaaS company. Then I went to programmatic. And then I went to Talkwalker for social listening. Then I went to Hootsuite. I went to only. Oh, I don't know that one. Oh, see, look, that's some stuff. My damn Siri went off. She's like, "You are going off."
He's our fourth guest.
Can't make that up. But like, I went to so many different like verticals that it's like I couldn't figure out what to write about unless it was that. So that's why I would put a lot about everything. So I know about campaigns, I know about creative, I know about SEO, I know about programmatic. I could break your entire website down. Do I put that on LinkedIn? So it's just like, that's why it's more than the title, because you would never know, right? Because I've been in all of this for about 13 years now. But why am I just an account executive? Why am I an account manager? But why can I not get certain opportunities in corporate America? But why can I build a 6-figure business from scratch by myself? Why is that? Yeah. And that's what I'm on. So it's just post what you want. Like if you're in a specific vertical, obviously you gotta earn. You gotta tell them, show them your business impact. It's always gonna be business impact. You can't just tell them, hey, I'm posting on this. But at the end of the day, you're helping the business more than anything. And for anybody listening, your brand is your brand. You're helping the brand anytime you post on LinkedIn. And know that and value that, right? What I didn't do, and I'm gonna give you straight transparency, I was posting on a lot of companies' behalf, and I couldn't really tell the real value. I've seen traffic go up on websites 200% when I was there. Why is that? Why am I not being compensated for that? Mm-hmm. Why are we not trying to track that? How come other sales reps that have another territory but know a contact that I'm cool with and really want to talk to me, why are they getting that? It was just so many different, you know what I mean? It's like, it was so many different things that you had to deal with. And it's like, why am I doing that for somebody else? And I just couldn't do it anymore.
I was really actually curious about that too, Jarrett, because like I love Ty is probably one of the most generous guys out there, right? And I appreciate like you got to be generous and you got to give back, but society asks a lot of the Black community to do a lot for free and to
Yeah.
put a lot of things on display that maybe we don't earn necessarily, right? We're not. How do I put this? Like you may be asked to share and be really authentic and do a lot of things for free and things that are really vulnerable to give back to the community. Do you have any advice for people who are maybe navigating wanting to support the community, wanting to give back to the culture, wanting to help lift up other people while still maintaining like their own boundaries and their own like professional growth?
Yeah, I would just say just walk the walk and talk the talk, right? If you want to help people, you want to help other communities, do the work, right? Don't be performative, right? There's a lot of companies, even I think in some companies we know today, they have ERG programs that get $5,000-$10,000 budget for the entire year. And then when they have to ask for that budget, they have to go to another person who does not look like them. Why is that? Why is that process? What does that does for our community psyche, right? So if you're going to do something for us, do it. Don't do it to say you checked off a box. And I think we see that a lot, right? And so for anybody that wants to get in corporate America, that's a Black person, just understand it's a game, right? When in Rome, do what the Romans do. You have to know the game and understand how to move throughout this game, how to help people while still keeping your name intact, how to try to bring people well, what alliances to make. All those different things matter if you really want to progress your career in tech. All right. And I had somebody, a guy named John Grant, he said something. He said, Black Americans, he said, in Black America, we only know 80% of the English language. He said the other 20% is meant for the power construct. And he said, if you wasn't put up on game, you wasn't told about it, you will never know, because power doesn't say what they mean. They imply what they mean. It's up to you as the listener to understand what they're talking about. Wow. So us as Black people, we're so forthright, so real, we're so authentic. And guess what? They see us from a mile away. They don't want that. That's why I can't do corporate.
And your company in the past, correct me if I have this wrong, but they had you were already doing more than a title. They asked you to run their podcast, do all this extra work for free. Yeah,
No,
I
so,
think you asked for what was owed to you.
No, so when I first started iPull Rank, the pandemic hit. I had just closed that big deal. And then I'm like, I had $800,000 in pipeline. It all just, hey, Jarrett, it went from call me tomorrow to call me next month to I don't know if I got budget. So I'm like, this $400,000 deal is going to last us but so long. So what can I do to bring in some leads and utilize LinkedIn? I said, let me just start streaming. So I started getting guests on. Instead of asking them for a meeting for sales, I started asking for a meeting to talk about themselves. They said yes every time. So once I get you on, now I'm building a relationship. I got your number now. And now if I really need something, now you're going to be questioning about our services. Hey, man, how can I help you? I think you are cool. That was a really good conversation. And then we started doing that. So once I closed $2 million for that company doing that, I left because I wanted more money. And that's when I started More Than a Title. So I started More Than a Title when I was at Hootsuite.
Oh, okay.
So, and my second or third guest was the CMO of Hootsuite, Maggie Lower. So what they did was they came to me, and shout out to Hootsuite. I still love all those people. Like, it's all love. But they wanted me to create a Hootsuite podcast. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to need $5,000, $10,000 off the top.
Yeah.
Especially if I'm going to use my relationships.
Right.
Then I got hey, I got to get back to you, or let's figure out if there's some budget. But you wanted me to do this for free? Why is that? Because if you would have outsourced it, wouldn't have been a question.
Of course.
But now that I'm in the organization, you want me to do it for free. Why is that?
Yeah.
Still love you, Hootsuite, but you know what's up, y'all.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Love y'all still, but you know that was, come on.
The time for asking people to do work like that for free needs to be over.
None. It takes, you got a post-production schedule. You ladies know. You're booking your guests, you're scheduling it, you're doing post-production, you're doing your clips. You got to make sure, you got to send the welcome emails and, hey, reminder emails, and, hey, we're about to go on. This is the link email. People don't listen to the email. They don't know the link. I didn't send the blurb for an hour before the show. All that stuff means it takes time.
Yeah. Totally. So I want to get more into the podcast. You've had some really, really cool guests on the show. I'm sure you've had memorable moments. I would love to hear a story about a memorable moment or like a really like funny guest. What comes to mind if I just throw that out there?
I think there's so many memorable guests. It's hard to put on, but I would think the one, I ain't gonna lie, the one I had butterflies for, and I was like, couldn't sleep the day before, was Dr. Matthew Knowles. And shout out to Dr. Matthew Knowles if he's listening. So it took me 2 years. I was working on that. So I would just hit him up. We were connected on LinkedIn. I'm like, hey man, it's really cool. I got this little podcast thing. All right. Oh, he just said something. He like, thank you. I'm like, all right, cool. He responded to me. Beyonce's dad responded to me. Mr. Dr. Matthew Knowles responded to me. Cool. Kept on asking. And then one time I seen him on a podcast of my friends. And I'm like, oh man, come on. You got to come on my podcast now, bro. Come on, man. He was like, man, reach out to my assistants. We got him on. But he's one person I didn't know what to expect. I was nervous. I'm like, what do we talk about? Is it going to be cool? Is he going to be, have a lot of energy? Like, what is it going to be like? And when I say he came on 5 minutes early and was just he's like, guys, man, his energy was great. He's like, man, I've been looking forward to this call all day. He led with that. Yeah. And I could just melt, man. I was like, man, you're looking forward to our conversation. And we talked about everything from his upbringing to him selling his company. He gave us about like 4 or 5 Beyonce stories about, just parenting. How do you feed into your child when they have passion and things like that? It was just such a cool story. And all the comments we got was like, man, he's like uncle at the cookout. I never would have expected him to be so cool. And that was probably like one of the most memorable ones.
Yeah. And just to be clear for listeners who missed it, we're talking about Beyonce's father.
Yeah, as Dr. Matthew Knowles. Shout out to my brother, man. Shout out to the king.
That's awesome.
And even that, like just having those relationships. So if anybody's listening, once again, impact over metrics. I can get 100 views on that on that episode. I could potentially say I know this man, right? I could potentially do business with this man. I could potentially do whatever. I could just say, man, happy birthday, and I'm going to get a response. That means a lot to me. And building that relationship, what does that look like over time? How do you put a price on that? Especially coming from the Bronx and Indian style on the couch. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, something else that's kind of interesting, because I came across you through LinkedIn. That's how we connected. We've talked a lot about how like LinkedIn is like your Rolodex, so to speak, right? Your like black book. That's so funny. Did I sound like I was from another generation saying Rolodex?
No, the black book. What is that?
But I was for a minute, I was like, that is the word, right? Did I just say watch company? No, it's definitely the book company. And then, but like what's really cool is you also have connections who might not be on LinkedIn as well, it sounds like. Like for the celebrities that you're getting on the show, are you using the same prospecting technique, or are you going through other, and you don't have to like share your channels or anything like that, no. But I'm just curious, like, did you hit up Dr. Matthew Knowles in the DMs of LinkedIn?
DMs of LinkedIn.
DMs of LinkedIn. Wow.
DMs of LinkedIn. DMs of LinkedIn. So a lot is either a mix between LinkedIn or Instagram. So right now, a lot of people are seeing Instagram because we're collaborating with a lot of people who have like millions of followers. So we did a interview with Wade Empire. Do you guys know him? He does like all the work. He's a black dude. He does all like the work stuff. He's like the black version of Corporate Bro.
Okay. I need to get on this.
I had Corporate Bro on. Corporate Bro was on it too. So I've had Corp on the show.
I know Corporate Bro. I don't know Wade yet.
Wade is there's similar content. He's just like the black version of Corp. So I've had him on. He has 900,000 followers. We collab with him. Instantly, he gets 20,000 views. I had Peter Quillen, the former middleweight boxing champ of the world, had him on. We did straight from a DM, right? Met him in person. I had Matt Hoffer, expert opinion champ. Shout out to my brother Champ. He came on the show, met him at a random event, right? So it's just building those relationships over time and then showing them, hey, look, I'm doing this. I'm being consistent. Most of my time, I'm sending cold emails or cold DMs to somebody like, hey, why haven't you been on yet? Now I'm saying that, like, why haven't you been on? I've had this one. I'm trying to celebrate you. Why haven't you been on? And then you usually just get that. And so shout out to all the celebrities, shout out to everybody. It's just, they see what we're doing. We're being consistent. And it's like, hey, man, we're not charging you. We're giving you clips. We're promoting you. We're celebrating you. We're not clickbait or nothing like that. So, it's been working out, but just shoot your shots. Anybody listen, you got to be Kobe. Shoot your shots. It don't matter about the no's. All they see is the yeses.
That's right. Yep. Amazing sales advice as well. And you use the podcast to really peek behind the curtain and see who people are beyond the title. So I think we got a good sneak peek into who Jarrett Thomas is today. But beyond CRO and founder of OTB Digital, who is Jarrett Thomas?
I'm a father of two amazing boys. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm somebody who thinks of generational wealth. I think outside the box. I want to help my community. I'm a person that put others first, and I just want to do amazing things in this world. And I just left corporate because I felt like I was being inside a box, right? I felt like some of my ideas weren't being able to. And if you want to be able to show them, you got to prove it to them. And I wanted a seat at the table. So, thank God that More Than the Title is performing well and all that. But any advice I would give to sellers out there, start a podcast. The best salespeople are going to be the best podcasters 2 to 3 years from now. It's going to be those relationships. It's going to be how you can control a conversation, how you can exchange energy on a conversation like this. How do you become memorable? All those things are going to matter in the sales process, not too very far from now. They matter today, but they're going to really matter tomorrow. So think about ways to build your brand, to get in front of your customer and already establish that. Make them say yes before they meet you.
Before we get into our final questions, Jarrett, I just want to follow up on giving back to your community. You're already doing so much. But I think I've heard you talk a little bit about some entrepreneurial projects you're working on in the Bronx. Can you tell us what's percolating for helping entrepreneurs and young business people thrive and get information in the Bronx?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're doing a lot. So there's a lot of different programs we're doing, but right now, what we're doing, we're trying to work with Board of Ed right now. I'm trying to create after school programs. So I want to be able to teach social media to these kids and podcasting programs. And once we get OTB and more than a title to a place we want it to be, we want to open up our own facility. So that's my main goal. I want to open up a podcast facility. I want to have different studios. I want to be able to show broadcast, music, all the above, entrepreneurs, how to build your LLC, how to build your credit. And I just want to create opportunities for people in the Bronx, because there's a lot of talent there and it's just not a lot of people with the access and the resources to do what they need to do, So that's what I want to be able to be known for in my neighborhood.
If you don't know Ty Smith yet, we have to intro you because Ty will take care of the IT and telecommunications.
Please, Ty, what up, man? Come on, holler at me, Ty. What's up, baby?
He's doing a lot of work in getting people exposed to more like IT and telecommunications related sales roles in underserved communities too. So I think you two will have
Really
a lot
cool.
to talk about.
That'd be really cool. Would love the intro.
Well, so this is funny. This is a great transition. We didn't plan this, but I feel like you're starting to get into the 5-year plan. The question that we like to ask every guest in the new year is 5 years from now, you see your name in headlines for following your passion and doing something big. What does that headline read?
Jarrett Thomas and Chad Fernandez sold More Than a Title for over $100 million to Paramount or BET or something like that, and he did it his way.
Yes.
That's what my headline is going to be. He did it his way from the Bronx.
Love
Shout out to Chad.
Yeah, and he literally was just calling me just now. Shout out to Chad. That's why I thought of you. Love you, baby.
I love it. Well, we'll let you get back to your life outside of this podcast, back to your phone calls that have been blowing you up. But last question, back to your was it Alexa?
Siri, we have a question for Siri.
Right.
But our very last question is, what are you promoting and where can people find you?
Yep. So you can go to morethanatitle.co. That's the podcast page. You'll see all the podcasts. You'll see our courses, the merchandise. We got hoodies, hats, shirts, everything you could possibly think of. We have newsletters, all that stuff. If you want to join the community, go there, hit your email. We'll make sure to hit you with exclusive content. Or you can find us at otbdigital.com. That's our agency. We do social media. We're a social media agency. We do SEO. We do content strategy. We do the whole nine. So if you're looking for a place where you can come up with outside the box content, none of that cookie cutter stuff that you've seen out there, this is what we do. We've done it from numerous brands and hopefully do it for you guys. And I'm on LinkedIn, Jarrett Thomas. Just DM me. I read every DM. I respond to every DM. I'm not Hollywood. I don't bite. Please holler at me.
Thank you so much, Jarrett, for coming on the show today.
Thank you, ladies. It's an honor and a pleasure. Thank you for having me. And Zoe, I want to tell you again, congrats. I'm so proud of your growth and what you're doing. I'm excited to see what you do. I really mean that seriously.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
Of course. Anytime. And I'm going to get you on the show too.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Rep Matters, the podcast for sales professionals who become top performers. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to follow Rep Matters wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. or access all episodes at marketersindemand.com/repmatters. See you next time.